What's up, fam? Hope all is well. Wanted to share my thoughts on the Dave Chappelle comedy routine on Netflix, which has garnered a lot of controversy. And to be quite honest, I believe that there are some points that people are missing that I feel need to be discussed. First and foremost, I have to say that I agree with many people out there who have issues with some of the content of Dave Chappelle's routine. Quite honestly, I have issues with anybody who puts out anything relating to violence, particularly against women, but just violence in general. I'm at a point in my life where, media wise and all of that, there's just too much violence out there. And anything that talks about violence, particularly against women, and I'm not here making a distinguishing between, women versus trans women. Well, if you're a woman, you're a woman. And I'm not going to sit here and say trans woman, because I believe that I know enough trans people say, now that I'm a woman, I'm a woman. Don't call me a trans woman. I'm a woman. And so that's the light that I'm speaking in right now. And so on that level, I definitely have issue with any whether it's music, whether it's a comedy routine, whatever that talks about violence against women in any way, shape, or form. Of course, there is a great deal of violence directed towards the trans community, whether you are male or female. And I think that's also problematic, and we have to condemn that. And so I do wish that Dave was able to create a routine that did not speak to anything, relating to violence. I think that he brought a lot of interesting food for thought about issues and relating to the trans community. For example, when he brought up the situation with Caitlyn Jenner becoming, Woman of the Year within a year of becoming a woman. I know that there were many people within the trans community who had a problem with that. And I think that those are the types of things that are fair to bring up in a comedic sketch. There's another issue that I have, though. I was watching the protest at Netflix, and this is what triggered me to record this video. Somebody said, it was a black person there who said, we didn't care what Chappelle was doing until he came for our community. And this is where my problem lies. See, as I've grown, I'm just talking about in terms of age. I'm not saying I'm more mature than other people or anything like that. I've decided to look at how I can focus more on our common humanity. And while I understand some of the concerns about what Chappelle said, and I do believe that ultimately he was trying to appeal to common humanity and doesn't want violence against the trans community, and I believe some of the commentary was botched because of some of the comments about violent acts and the like, I do believe that he's working to appeal to our common humanity. And when I think about that quotation from the rally, I find myself wondering often, why is it that people are so comfortable with what black people within the heterosexual community say about themselves and do to themselves, but are only upset when people, quote unquote, come for their community? As somebody who's a rapper, as somebody who's a consumer of hip hop, I've heard the most ignorant, disrespectful, and misogynistic things said about black people. And I see record companies, majority run by white people, put these things out. But as soon as somebody like a Michael Jackson will say something in songs like "They Don't Care About Us," "Sue Me, Jew Me, Don't You Black and Blue Me," the lyrics have to be taken completely off the album. I'm thinking about the riots in 1992 after Rodney King's and the acquittal on the trial there, and how black people were tearing up and destroying their community. But once people started moving towards Beverly Hills, the National Guard came out. Why is it that people are so comfortable with us saying things that are disrespectful towards us and don't expect it to come towards other communities? Let's take it a step further. There were comments that Dave Chappelle made in his routine that could be considered hate towards the Asian community, when he talked about COVID and he talked about how he was upset with seeing people getting beat up, Asian people getting beat up. But in his mind, he was doing that as well. Can people who are part of the trans community make comments about why that is problematic as well? Can people talk about that as an issue, because that can't that also be problematic? As somebody who knows, as many of us follow the old school comedians, the Dave Chappelle's, the Richard Pryors of the world, we know that when they do their routines, they come for everybody. And we know that we're in a different type of climate right now. But my point is that if you're going to challenge people for what they might be saying, I feel like you need to challenge all of what they're saying. Make an appeal for common humanity. I feel like when you pull out only the things that refer to you or your community, when you only point out the things that you feel disrespect you as a woman, as a gay person, as a black person, as a Jewish person, then that is problematic. And it makes me question how committed we are to equal rights for everybody. Another example, I'm thinking about Jay-Z's song, Story of OJ. And if you listen to Story of OJ and if you watch the video, that video makes a parody of pretty much every black stereotype, right? The big lips, the watermelon, all of that other type of stuff. It's a cartoon depiction. He has one line in there where he says something to the effect of, do you know how, Jewish people own all of the blocks in America? That's how they did it. Talking about a line of building up credit and financial wellness and things like that. And people within the Jewish community saw that to be anti-Semitic and came at Jay-Z for it. And Jay-Z's response was, that video talked about so many stereotypes about the black community throughout the entire song. And if all you're going to do is pull out the one line where you consider me saying something anti-Semitic and that's a problem, then that speaks a little bit more about you than it does about me and what you're serious about. And I think that there's a lot of truth there. So my point is that whether the Chappelle routine is taken off of Netflix or not, there's a bigger issue about what we're all doing to challenge and be activists towards everybody. If you are part of that trans activist community and the show gets taken off Netflix, do you all of a sudden breathe a sigh of relief and you just go back to doing, living your life as normal and don't have any concern about some of the other things that might have been said towards other communities there and have no activism towards that? Now, I know a lot of people who are part of the trans community who are activists, who are part of Black Lives Matter and who fight anti-Asian hate and all of that. I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm talking about those who don't and are only focused on the singular issue. We can't be like, the single voter, type issue. I only care about abortion. I only care about voting rights. No, we have to do more. We have to be better. And so while I understand several of the issues that have come up with the Dave Chappelle comedy routine, I believe at the end of the day, he's calling for greater humanity for all of us. He's calling for greater respect towards everybody. And I believe that there are parts of his skit that missed the mark on that. And I understand why people will be called out. But at the end of the day, I'm calling for all of us to do the same. Dave Chappelle can take that show can be taken off tomorrow. There's still going to be a lot of black hate out there, a lot of violence towards black people that he spoke to. There's still going to be a lot of racism that may come even from the gay and as well as from the trans community towards other people. There's still going to be that. There's still going to be anti-Asian hate that's going to be out there related to COVID and all this other type of stuff. It's still going to be there. Are you going to shy away from that until people, quote unquote, come from your community? If we're going to be all in this together, I believe that we really have to be all in this together. And so we have to get out there and fight it all. And again, I am definitely against violence that's being promoted against anybody and spoken about in any way, shape, or form. And I understand that there are other comments that came out there that were viewed as transphobic. And Dave Chappelle called himself transphobic himself. And I don't think that he meant it comedically. I think that he meant that, like many people on many issues, he's still trying to find himself as it relates to new situations. Like he said, 16 years ago, 10 years ago, those of y'all who do this work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, there weren't big comments or, trainings relating to the transgender community. And luckily now it's a larger part of the conversation. We all have more to learn about. And this can be a learning experience for many if we let it. But let's just remember at the end of the day, we have to do the work to find the common ground in these uncommon times. And we have to do the work to find our common humanity. And I'm hoping that as we go forward, the Chappelle closer comedy routine can be an opportunity for us to further that discussion and have that growth so we can create communities where everybody is indeed celebrated and not tolerated. I'm ready to rock. I hope you are too. Peace.